Do you believe some jobs are left vacant for a reason? I started working as a night security guard last week. The pay was incredibly high for such a simple job. All I had to do was sit in the office and watch the monitors. The manager told me that the museum was very old. He said the previous guard left without collecting his paycheck. That should have been the first red flag for me. Before he left, he handed me a laminated instruction sheet. He told me to follow the rules exactly as they were written. I thought it was just standard procedure for the building. But when I sat down to read the list, I felt a chill. The first rule seemed completely nonsensical and strange. Rule number 1, never look at the mannequins in the hallway. If you feel like they moved, you must look away immediately. Rule number 2, always keep the office door locked after midnight. If you hear knocking, do not open it under any circumstances. Rule number 3 is the one that scared me the most. If you see a woman in a red dress on camera 4, you must turn off the monitor and wait for 5 minutes. Do not look at her face and do not let her see you watching. I laughed a little because I thought the guys were pranking me. I settled into the chair and poured myself a cup of hot coffee. The first few hours of the shift were boring and quiet. I watched the black and white screens flickering in front of me. Everything was normal until the clock struck 12. I heard a soft thud coming from the main exhibition hall. I looked at the monitor showing the main hallway. The mannequins were dressed in old historical costumes, but I could swear that one of them had changed its position. It was a soldier mannequin holding a long musket. Earlier, his head was facing forward towards the door, but now his head was turned slightly towards the camera. I remembered the first rule and quickly looked away. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination. My heart started beating faster, but I stayed in the office. Then I heard 3 loud knocks on the heavy metal door. Bang, bang, bang. The sound echoed loudly in the small security room. I froze because I knew I was the only person in the building. I remembered rule number 2 about keeping the door locked. I sat perfectly still and held my breath in the silence. A voice from the other side whispered my name. It sounded exactly like my mother calling me home. Open the door, honey. It is cold out here. I almost stood up because the voice was so convincing. But then I remembered my mother had passed away years ago. Tears ran down my face as I refused to open the door. The knocking stopped as abruptly as it had begun. I checked the time and it was almost 3 in the morning. I decided to check the cameras one last time to feel safe. That was when my blood turned into ice in my veins. On camera 4, which showed the basement storage, there was a woman standing in the middle of the room. She was wearing a long, flowing, bright red dress. She was standing with her back to the camera. I remembered rule number 3 immediately. Turn off the monitor and wait for 5 minutes. My hand reached out to hit the power button. But before I could press it, the woman turned around. She didn't have a face, just a smooth patch of skin. She walked right up to the camera lens and waved. I panicked and smashed the off button on the console. I sat in the darkness, counting the seconds in my head. 1 minute passed, and the silence was deafening. 2 minutes passed, and I could hear scratching on the walls. 3 minutes passed, and the office light began to flicker. I suddenly realized I had made a terrible mistake. The rule said, do not let her see you watching. But she had turned around before I cut the feed. Suddenly, the scratching sound moved to the ceiling. It sounded like something was crawling inside the vents. I grabbed my flashlight and pointed it upwards. The vent cover above my head was slowly being unscrewed. I could see long, pale fingers twisting the metal screws. I grabbed my keys and ran for the emergency exit. I didn't care about the job or the money anymore. I sprinted through the dark hallways as fast as I could. I could hear heavy footsteps running behind me. They sounded wet and heavy like bare feet on tile. I burst through the front doors and into the cool night air. I didn't stop running until I reached my car in the lot. I fumbled with my keys and locked the doors tight. As I drove away, I looked back at the museum entrance. The woman in the red dress was standing by the window. She was waving at me with those long, pale fingers. I never went back to collect my things or my pay. But sometimes, when I am alone in my apartment at night, I can still hear that soft scratching in the ventilation, and I wonder if she followed me home that night. Because this morning I found a red thread on my floor, and the rule sheet I left at the museum was on my table. It had a new rule written in fresh red ink at the bottom. Rule number 4. You can never leave the game once you have been seen. Please believe me when I tell you to be careful. Some jobs are left vacant for a very good reason. Do not accept the night shift if the pay is too good. And always read the rules before you sign the contract.